Good morning. It's Easter Sunday and a happy Easter, or a blessed Easter, or the very best Easter possible to each and every one of you who's watching this. I bring you the warmest greetings on behalf of Haxby Wigginton Methodist Church, myself, and the hopefulness of this day. I'm not going to read the story of the resurrection. I'm just going to say something very simple this morning about the wisdom that we can take from our Jewish brothers and sisters who are around the same time of year every year celebrating the Passover, Pesach, in their own tradition. And they gather for a meal. They gather to perform rituals that are deeply rooted in their history, that have been passed on and passed down and continued in many ways unchanged for hundreds and hundreds of years. But at the end of the meal, one of the things they say to each other is, next year in Jerusalem. Next year in Jerusalem. Not every Jewish person says that, not every Pesach meal includes that, but it is part of what the Jewish community recognize in their scattered life across the nation and across the world. Of course, Jewish people are at home wherever they are, but there is a real sense in many that they're rooted in Jerusalem. This is the place of the birth of their faith, their life, and the center of all that they are. Next year in Jerusalem. So maybe there's something for us just to think about when it comes to that wisdom. We gather each Easter and we go through ritual. We do things that are very similar each year. We proclaim the same words. We use the same songs. We obviously innovate a little, but we very much root ourselves in what has been before. And then comes the invitation to think about next year. And of course the last two Easters have been disrupted for us. We haven't had Holy Communion. We haven't had our Easter decoration. We haven't been able to bring daffodils as a sign of hope up and decorate a cross. We haven't done our Easter egging in the village, just surprising a street full of people with Easter eggs on their doorstep. We haven't been able to do lots of things that root us in who we are and who we have been. And so this year, for many of us, we might say, next year back in the church. Next year back in the church. But of course the wisdom in the Jewish greeting next year in Jerusalem is that things next year, we hope they aren't the same. There's a real longing and a real hope that things won't be the same. And while we remain rooted in what has been, perhaps more than any other Easter this year, we need to be very careful of saying, next year we'll be back where we were. Because going back to where you were is seldom a sign of Christ following, or of being open to the infinitely creative God who is transforming us and transforming our world alongside us day by day. So this morning, in half an hour, I will gather with Haxby and Wigginton Methodist congregation who can gather with us and choose to do so online, and we will look each other in the face again. We will say Happy Easter. I took a cup of coffee with me this morning to Ethel Ward, to the playing fields in Haxby, and there were a few other church folk who gathered there, brought cups of coffee. We stood a long way away from each other. We said hello to each other. We watched the sun come up and then went our separate ways. We complied with all the regulations, if anyone's worrying. But we said together that we missed having communion there. We missed what we've done before there. We missed it. And that's why, on a pretty freezing cold morning with lots of frost about, we were able to gather with that longing for what had been and what will be again. And I don't want to make too strong a point of it, but I do just want to borrow the wisdom of our Jewish brothers and sisters who do something that roots them in everything that's gone before. And as part of it, say to each other, next year, our longing is for something else, something different, something away from here, perhaps. I was reading a piece about that greeting, and one of those pieces was about the fact that even Jews in Jerusalem will often say next year in Jerusalem. And of course for them, maybe it's a little less complex, I think, to say. Who knows? But today, as we think about what Easter Sunday means, as we think about all the things that root us in our faith because of what we do and have done in the past on Easter Sunday, let's look back in gratitude. Let's not throw away the things we've done before, but let's be careful that there isn't too much of us today saying, next year we'll be who we've been in the past again. Next year we'll do what we've done in the past again. Next year we hope more than anything for something we already know. And of course that makes sense, because we are disrupted, we are uprooted, we are disturbed and remain so by more than 12 months of what coronavirus has done to us socially, faithfully, in communities, across nations in the world. It's been the most extraordinarily intense time. So of course there's a longing in us for the familiar. But let's not root ourselves in those things. Because I think for the wisdom tradition in our Jewish brothers and sisters, they see the solid place to stand in the traditions of their past as a springboard into an unknown future and another possibility. Now, I'm not going to unpack that too much this morning in terms of what church might be or look like, but I think we all know that church as an experience is going to be very familiar but also very different, immediately and hopefully continuously, as we journey out of coronavirus. Because what we have done, as I was saying on Friday, what we have done in the past may no longer satisfy us in any significant way. Maybe it wasn't Friday. Anyway, one of the reflections this week. You can go back and watch them if you want to. You have nothing better to do. That it makes sense to long for the past, but that our hope for the future is something different. And of course, Easter breaks through. It breaks through in everybody's lives in that first Easter. It breaks through the expectations, experience, emotions of the disciples, of the wider community. It breaks through the two walking disconsolately to Emmaus, as we read about that in John's Gospel. It breaks through. It brings wonder, but it also disrupts and brings transformation, change, ongoing uncertainty and costs. Because those who follow Jesus discover what it is like to live like Jesus. And why should you and I be excluded from that or somehow exempt? So happy Easter to you. Happy Easter to you. Next year in where? In our church building? In your church building? In a familiar pattern of life? Yes, hopefully. Hopefully. Very hopefully. But please, let's not be asking God to confirm and affirm in us what might feel like or look like or might even be desired by us as a return to the things we've already known. Because that's not the deal. And that is the good news. That God doesn't just leave us where we are. God loves us where we are, and God calls us on into more of life, which isn't always easy, but more of life than we've known. And the very things that have sustained us, the things that have held us, the things that we've been handed on from whether it's last year or 10 years ago or 100 years ago, all of those things at some point were fresh innovations, subject to opposition, subject to discomfort, subject to all that they were before they became familiar and concretized and made holy and untouchable. Bless you this Easter. Bless you and the people you love. I hope you get to hug them soon. I hope you get to sit in their back gardens and spend time with them. I hope that in the hopeful unfurling of our lives beyond these next weeks and months as coronavirus diminishes, we hope, and remains diminished. May we not be who we were. May we not long to go back to who we were or where we were. And may we hear our Jewish brothers and sisters saying, however firmly we stand on our memories and experience and traditions of the past, next year. Next year, something else. Maybe somewhere else. Who knows? Happy Easter, and God bless you.